Welcome to a special edition of Inside Look. We are inside North Attleborough High School, and the topic today is the possibility of a new North Attleborough High School. You will go to the polls on June 3rd, and whether or not you pass a debt exclusion holds the fate of whether or not there'll be a new North Attleborough High School. Joining me is the superintendent of North Attleborough Schools, John Antonucci, the current principal and soon to be assistant principal of North Attleborough High School and the North Attleborough School District, Peter Haviland, and town councilor. And are you the chair of Yes for NAHS or just a member of Yes for NAHS?
Yeah, member of Yes for NAHS and a member of the school building committee.
Okay, but Keith LaPointe, who is well known and a graduate of North Attleborough, the only person here who's a graduate of North Attleborough.
Class of 93.
93. I remember that class well. I used to do your football.
I know, the miracle in the mud.
Back when I had black hair. Anyway, let's go back. John, when did all this start? It's not something that happens overnight.
No, Peter, thank you. And thank you for giving us the time to talk about this obviously very important project and process. So, yeah, we've been talking about this a lot because we're sort of at now the sprint to the finish line. Right? We're facing a June 3rd vote, and it's coming fast and furious. But this sort of official journey here began in 2017, 8 years ago. And even before then, the town of North Attleborough, the school leaders, the town leaders had really determined that North Attleborough High School had, for lack of a better term, exceeded its useful life. It was in disrepair, and it really wasn't meeting the needs anymore of 21st century students. So back in 2017, they submitted an application to the MSBA, Massachusetts School Building Authority. The application is called the Statement of Interest, an SOI. And MSBA is a partner, as you know, with districts throughout the Commonwealth to help fund school construction projects. So we submitted an application in 2017 to partner with MSBA to help fund the high school project. We got rejected in 2017. We applied in 2018, 19, 20, and 21. And after 5 years, we finally got accepted into their program in March 2022. And that'll tell you something about the prestige and the selectiveness of that MSBA program. It took us 5 years just to sort of get into the on-deck circle, if you will. And so it's very exclusive. We're thrilled. And honestly, we can't do this project without MSBA support. Yeah, so it's been 8 years in the making. And again, we're now several weeks away from a vote, but it's been a long time coming.
I'm going to reference social media a lot during this program. It's amazing how many people don't know how the MSBA works. And I seem to remember, because I'm a lot older than you guys, MSBA at one point, the state used to fund 75% of a school, right? Until Newton North ruined that for everyone with their Taj Mahal.
Well, actually, I don't know if it was always 75% because it really depended on a community's wealth, but certainly they were reimbursing a higher percentage sort of back in the day, kind of the old MSBA. Today it's slightly different. I will say though, our official percentage from MSBA is upwards of 63%. Now that's of eligible cost, so it won't, our yield is more in the line of 37 or 38%, but it's still a significant investment. For North Attleborough, we're talking about a $107 million grant from MSBA. This is an incredible opportunity for us, and it's one that, in my opinion, I just don't think we can pass up.
Peter, one of the things I've read and I've heard in school committee meetings, school building committee meetings, is the fact that this building just isn't capable of educating a child in the 21st century. As the current principal of the school, explain why.
Because of the college and career futures that kids are looking forward to and anticipating. Education in college has changed, workplace habits and how organizations behave in terms of employment, all that's changed. The entire world is growing, changing, and developing. The high school really should, as best it can, replicate the living, learning, and working experiences that kids anticipate after high school. This building continuously, every year, becomes a limitation and inhibits that growth and level of readiness for all of our students.
One of the things I found interesting, and I've seen it on social media, why is it so big compared to the current high school? And it wasn't until I read something, it might have been something that you posted, that the MSBA, and it might be DESE, Department of Secondary Education. Did I get that right?
Elementary and secondary education.
I was close enough for a non-educator. But anyway, they are looking for a certain square foot per student. In North Attleborough High School, it isn't at that number, not even close to it.
Yeah, this high school, in terms of its square footage, will be smaller than the new design. And the new design, as you said, it meets MSBA expectations and guidelines. And so we carefully planned in our initial visioning process, evaluating every square foot of this building in terms of how it's currently used. And then projected that into a new building, and also doing that while maintaining the MSBA guidelines. But the new building will be designed to provide those learning experiences and environments that every student needs, and that's why MSBA kind of has that expectation.
I am going to throw at you guys a number of objections I've read on social media. One is the fact that enrollment is going down, yet you're building a bigger building. I'm sure you've heard that, John.
Yeah, it's just incorrect. So this building, to follow up on what Pete just said, according to MSBA guidelines, is going to be right-sized. Okay, we're building it based on their guidelines and based on what they believe are appropriate spaces to educate educated students. So it is a right-sized building. The enrollment, it has gone down. It's fairly stable right now. But even that, this building is built for an agreed-upon enrollment with MSBA. We went through an extremely rigorous process to come to the enrollment number. It's 1,025 students. They have professional demographers and forecasters that they work with, and we ultimately agreed on a number, 1,025. This building that we're proposing is built exactly for that number. No more, no less. And so to me, it's right sized, and that's a really important question and something we want to make sure we convey to people.
Is there any fear that the Styx driving range fun center is going to be 300 apartments, future growth, that you're spending all this money and 20 years from now the building might not be big enough?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's hard to look ahead 20 years. I think MSBA looks ahead 10 years. And so we're very confident, in the next decade. A couple of things. One, this building is 40,000 square feet larger than it is today. So we know we just have that kind of natural space if, God forbid, we have to, expand. But long term, the new construction is going to be, will have the ability to expand if necessary. As a matter of fact, MSBA requires that. They require you to build a building that can be expanded, hopefully, way into the future. So I'm not really too concerned. Enrollment always fluctuates, and so it's something we track very carefully and we're always mindful of, but I'm not overly concerned. In fact, I'm very confident that the number that we agreed upon and the number we're building the building for is going to serve this community well into the future.
Keith, you're the only one among the four of us that was actually a student here. School was relatively new back then. It was only probably, when you got into school, probably about 18, 19 years old. Yeah. It's now much older than that. You probably know better than Peter. You've been in some of the areas of the school. Why is the new school needed?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. When you think about how education has evolved, and I would even argue that this school was dated and out of place in the late 80s and early 90s when I was here. But this school was built on an assumption that kids would sit in rows, 5 rows deep, 5 across, and they would listen to a teacher talk to them for 45 minutes, and then they'd move on to the next classroom. And that's not how we live, that's not how we work. The things we do today are much more team-based, much more hands-on. And if you just picture a room that's just large enough for 25 desks in it, and then try to have group conversations. Try to do small working projects. Now you're moving the furniture around. There's no place to go. And the hallways aren't the way they're designed in future focused schools. There are essentially just wasted corridors in this building. There's no place to kind of break out and do that team-based work. And then, to me, I think about all that interdisciplinary education. That really is the way the world works. I've had a long career at this point, and you never work on things within a single discipline. So that ability to bring communication skills to an engineering project, and then maybe some hands-on actual fabrication kind of things, we don't have those spaces here today. And so that thought of being able to actually execute an educational program that prepares students for what they need in the future, to me, that's the core of it. And I think it's really important. Remember, Peter, there's a lot of talk about, why don't we just fix the roof and fix the boiler and call it a day? We're not in this process because of that. If we thought that's all this building needed, we would have fixed those things. This building was bad in the mid-'80s, it was worse in the 90s, and it definitely doesn't work today.
You have a longer history than any of us in this town, and one of the things I've heard is, they need to spend $289 million because they did not properly maintain the building. And I was around before Proposition 2.5 passed, and every year when the school budget came out, it wasn't a matter of what are we looking to add, what are we looking to maintain. It was how many positions are going to be lost. And my argument to those people is, well, do you spend $2 million on upgrading the building, or do you spend $2 million in actually educating students? You were a part of that Proposition 2.5 movement. Am I right or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That decade before the override passed was it was survival mode. Yeah. So every year the community was looking at the budget and was like, how do we get by this year? What can we defer to some future date when the money will be there? And when you're doing that and you're thinking about educating kids and the school aspect of it, in those moments, in those years, you can't see the importance of putting a new roof on or something like that, because you need the teachers to make sure that the kids are getting through that year. So you're absolutely right. And I've seen kind of a lot of questions recently about some of the state of all of the schools in the community. And there's definitely a 10-plus year capital improvement plan to upgrade and continue to improve all of the schools. But you also have to remember that there was a 20-year period of handcuffed finances. And so you can't have it both ways, right? You can't say the schools should have had these repairs done over the years, but then have refused to fund them over those same years.
We have the lowest tax rate around, but we can't make repairs.
If I follow up on that?
Go ahead.
Because the question comes up all the time, and I appreciate it. I agree with everything Keith just said, but we're also talking about two different things. There's sort of maintenance, right, and making sure that the building is functioning, and then there's investing in major capital improvements, right? And to Keith's point, we haven't had that funding to invest in major capital improvements in any of our buildings until recently. But this building, I would argue, was extremely well maintained. We have original HVAC systems, original electrical systems, original windows and roofs. It's over 50 years old. The fact that this building is still functioning and has never had to close for a single day is a testament to the maintenance that has been done on this building. And I know the crew that maintains this building. They take great pride in that. So yes, we haven't invested in the major repairs and the capital improvements, but as far as maintenance, you walk around this building, it's well maintained. We're fully operational with 50-year-old systems, and I couldn't find a resident in town that could say that about their home. So I'm actually proud, and even well preceded me, but I think we have to separate those two, sort of commitment to infrastructure repair versus commitment to maintenance. I think we do a good job with maintenance.
I never knew this, but as part of the MSBA's plan that you have to execute in order to get approved, you had to develop an education plan for the future, right? I know it was very well received, but why was that important to the MSBA?
Well, so the MSBA is making a significant investment in our community, right? $107 million. And they're not going to allow communities to build schools for the next 100 years and just sort of do the same old thing that you've been doing for the last 50, say. So they want to make sure, to all these points they made about the education, how education's evolved, they want to make sure that the educational delivery model is reflective of, in this case, a 21st century education. They want to make sure that students are going to get more hands-on, experiential, project-based learning. And they need to make sure that the building can do that, right? So they require us to develop an education plan that informs the design and ultimate construction of that new building, right? So that's why it's a key component of the project. And something you said I want to follow up on. The work that was done on the educational plan was inspirational. I mean, it was led by Peter Haviland, Michelle McEwen, our curriculum and instructional leaders in this building. It truly was inspirational, and they worked for months and months to develop a true vision of what an education in North Attleborough can look like. It ultimately, at a very public MSBA meeting, was called a model in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And to me, that's something that we should really be proud of. And again, that model plan informed this design that we're taking forward to the voters on June 3rd. So that is probably, even though it's not infrastructure per se, right? It's not the bricks and mortar. It's probably the most important thing we did in this process. And I would encourage anybody to take a look at it and dig in. It's an incredible thing, and what our students are going to be experiencing over the next several decades is something to behold.
Peter, one of the things I read on social media, and out of fairness to people, unless they're deeply involved with education, they just don't know. But one of the things I've read is you're spending all this money, and we're also spending money on Tri-County. Why don't we offer some of the programs here at the new North Attleborough High School and keep those students and keep that money in town? You're not allowed to do that, are you?
No, the state has a funding system that specifically is for vocational schools, and we're not one of them, so we would not have access to that funding. But we do know that the educational vision is based on increasing the levels of relevance for students so they understand more about why they're learning what they're learning, creating authentic experiences, and talking about what John referenced in terms of hands-on project-based learning. That's where the learning becomes deeper. That's where the students develop a set of skills. And as Keith was talking about, the workplace is asking people to be more skilled from a comprehensive standpoint. And so we can, within the educational plan, we can, within the building design, create experiences for kids to and students to start in the classroom, develop that level of knowledge that they need to develop that understanding. And then we have hub spaces in our new ed design, which are spaces where students can work on those projects, those hands-on experiences, and learn about how to apply what they know and understand, so that when they leave here, they apply to go to college, or they apply for workplace employment. They can say that they've done certain things that qualify themselves for excellence in those environments, because we're going to be able to provide them with that. So we won't be a vocational school. We can't be, but we certainly can provide students with experiences to develop those skills and apply those in post-secondary outcomes.
Critical thinking, that's a term you often hear now. How important is that in the 21st century?
It's everything, right? I mean, I think the ability, I often say that you go to school at the high school and college level to learn. And it's a lifelong endeavor where you're always having to take in information, process it, and then make decisions and drive outcomes that improve your workplace or improve your home. And it all starts with critical thinking.
One of the objections I've heard, and you were at the meeting, the town council meeting, when they were discussing the possibility of giving a break to seniors who are at a certain income level. That $1,000 number that keeps getting thrown out, which would be the increase for the average home, price-wise here, or value-wise here in the town of North Attleborough. What do you say to those people who simply can't afford it? And it's not only seniors, it's young homeowners who have 2 kids, and they're not going to be able to afford $1,000 extra per year.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated question, because the reality is that expenses have gone up across everything, right? It's not really a tax problem at its core. It's a consumer purchasing challenge. And I think the first thing I would do is just make sure, if you're somebody who finds yourself in that situation, that you understand what's available to you. As I heard that topic coming up, I personally did a deep dive into the state circuit breaker, senior circuit breaker, tax exemption, and it is a very robust program, and the vast majority of people in North Attleborough don't take advantage of it. So that was what I would say first, is start with really understanding what options are available to you, and the town has resources to help you with that. The senior center, veterans agents, those folks are all there to help guide you through that process. And then I think beyond that, you do get people who are sort of caught in between, right? They make more, but they're tight. They're really tight. And what I would say to those people is a couple things. One is, I know the council right now is actively working on additional programs to try to provide relief. And so as those come forward, I think that will be a valuable add. And I think you do have to kind of think through the long-term value. If you are a homeowner, the impact on your overall property value and your long-term ability to accumulate wealth will be driven by projects like this. And I think sometimes you have to make that investment.
John, we discussed very briefly Tri-County. Tri-County is probably about a year, 2 years ahead of you in building a brand new high school, one that I will say was desperately needed. The town fortunately had the foresight to put some capital projects, pay off some capital projects, use free cash for capital projects and so on. So at least the first few years of paying for the new Tri-County without going to the residents. How important was that? Because if there had been a debt exclusion to pay for Tri-County, there's no way in the world people would have turned around and approved another debt exclusion.
Yeah, maybe not. And it certainly was forward-thinking and responsible, and credit goes to the town council and the town manager for making that happen. As it relates to Tri-County, though, what drives the cost at Tri-County, both in terms of paying for their debt service and paying for kind of the annual assessment, are the number of North Attleborough students who attend Tri-County. And so as we're talking about our new education plan and our new hub spaces, advanced manufacturing, robotics, communication, we're hoping to provide incentives for students who might have otherwise chosen Tri-County because we had nothing of the sort here to stay here in North Attleborough. So, and by the way, I think Tri-County is a phenomenal school, and the vocational technical schools provide an unbelievable education. I do think, though, that we're losing a higher percentage of students from this town than we should be. And so as we look to the future with the new high school and with the opportunity to have some of those hands-on project-based, kind of application-based learnings, I'm actually pretty confident that our bill to Tri-County is going to go down. And again, that'd be in terms of paying for the debt service and in terms of paying for the annual assessment. So I know I answered your question and then went off, but I think it's a really important point to make. The more kids we can keep in North Attleborough, the more money we'll have for our educational program.
Who wants to answer this question? Because I've heard it. President Trump, tariffs on steel, tariffs on pretty much everything, at least being threatened. There's no way in the world it's going to be $290 million. We're going to approve this, and they're going to say, well, because of all the increases, it's going to be $320 million. I forget who answered it at one of the public forums, but the answer was basically, no, we will work within the money approved.
I can take it. Yeah, it's not going. So, the actual, the official number is actually 287.8 million. And we're going to talk extensively about this at the May 8th Community Forum. So that's the official number, 287. It will not be more than 287.8 million. It's an agreed upon number with MSBA. We're making a commitment to the town for that number. So when people go to the ballot on June 3rd, they'll know what the cost is. That number, very importantly, I'm glad you're asking about it. We know that there's a lot of volatility and uncertainty in the economy right now. A lot of that has to do with tariffs. That 287.8 has a very healthy and very conservative contingency amount. we have sort of our typical contingency, like construction and design contingency that you'd build in a normal project. But then we have several $1 million of contingency set aside just to acknowledge that uncertainty, specifically as it relates to the tariffs. So that 287 number, you can take that to the bank. And we feel very confident, more than confident, that it will address the uncertainty and the volatility in the national economy.
We've talked about the inside of the school and what it offers. What's going outside? One of the things one of the knocks I've heard is more artificial turf fields, which have to be replaced or repaired every 10 years or so. What exactly is going on outside, if this is approved?
I'll take it.
Either way.
Yeah, I'll take it. Just for everybody's knowledge, right, the new high school will be built essentially on the existing DiNardo field, so directly behind the existing high school. And so that will take that field space that's behind there. When that school opens, the existing high school will be torn down, and a multi-purpose field, essentially a replacement of what is behind the high school, will be built there. And so that field is absolutely intended to be a turf field. So we'll have that multi-purpose field. And then in the back corner, that would be the west of the new high school, the DiNardo field will be rebuilt. So the baseball field will be in that back corner, and have the ability to sort of be overflow multi-purpose as well. Tennis courts will get moved and replaced. Parking will be similar, a little bit more parking, a little bit more EV access, just again being kind of forward thinking in that regard. And then I think, in my mind at least, the last really major external improvement will be the creation of a high school only access road. That will actually be built at the very start of the project. So while the project's going on, the existing middle school and high school will be able to operate as they do today, because all that construction traffic will come in on the new road that'll be just to the west of Kelly Field. And then once the project is complete, that will become the new dedicated high school entrance. So anybody who drives down Landry Ave first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon, it is very dangerous out there. Cars are backed up into the road. You've got student drivers in the mix. And so having that high school dedicated entrance will vastly, vastly improve circulation and safety from a traffic perspective. And it's important to know too, everything I just described to you is in the $287 million that Dr. Antonucci talked about.
Peter, final thought?
One is that we're going to improve education, and we're going to prepare our students for post-secondary opportunities. But two is this design, this building, this campus is going to be an incredible resource for a community, and possibly the biggest thing that's happened in education and perhaps cultural life in town in 100 years. And so all these different things that we've just described are significant improvements for the life and times of people who live and work and learn in North Attleborough.
John, final thought?
I appreciate that. This is our moment as a community. We are in line to get a $107 million check from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've paid for that with a penny of our sales tax. So North Attleborough residents have been paying for that program. We finally got selected after 5 years. It's highly competitive, as I described. This is our chance. We almost should be having a parade. If someone came to you and said, we're going to give you a check for $107 million, kind of what would you do? We have that chance right now. If we don't pass this on June 3rd, our chances of getting back in this program are limited. It would take at least 5 to 10 years. Construction costs are never going to go down. This is our chance. This is our moment as a community. And I strongly encourage people to get all the information, get factual information, make a good decision for themselves and their family, but to be in line to get that significant of an investment from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to help us and help our taxpayers reduce the burden of building a new school, I can't imagine us passing that up.
The community forums, all of the NAHS school building committee meetings are in the North TV government page portion of our website. So if you have any questions, check them out here. Hear what they actually discussed, and then make your decision. We will have live election results on election night, June 3rd at 8:30 p.m. on our government channel. Thank you for watching this special edition of Inside Look.